I think we've uncovered a motive. We've uncovered some very valuable information. We started to dig really deep into the online world of Tyler. We started checking everything. We were digging. We spent days and hours of endless digging. And I think we did uncover some very, very key information.
What is up, EWOO crew? Today, we are bringing you back to the case we covered on December 30th, 2017.
What is up, EWOO crew? Today, we have another mystery for you. If you guys like the mysteries, we have another one, and we're standing in the exact location where this mystery takes place.
The strange disappearance of a 20-year-old boy named Tyler Stice. In that video, we traveled all the way to his hometown of Kingman, Arizona, to explore the area where the young man's abandoned vehicle was discovered several days after he went missing. An isolated nature path near Hualapai Mountains. We actually hiked through the wooded trails, following the drainage ditch that the police dogs had tracked Tyler's scent across. In addition to getting footage of what Tyler's last known surroundings looked like, we searched high and low for any clues in the hope that we could find something to help explain what happened to the missing boy. We stumbled across some run-down, deserted buildings near the spot where Tyler's scent trail had ended.
So it's possible he's right around here somewhere. Let's check out this little place though.
But unfortunately, after a thorough inspection of the eerie abandoned premises, we were still at a loss as to where Tyler could have gone. Today, we are sharing an update on the case. It's been nearly 3 years since we posted the original video, and the information that has come to light in that time has turned this case into something far more complex, convoluted, and utterly twisted than we ever could have imagined. As part of our exhaustive investigation, we've reached out to Tyler's family for information or comments on the ordeal, but we're disappointed to hear that they were apparently too busy with the holidays to speak with us.
They said that they were too busy with family to talk to us, so I don't know about you guys, but I found that a little odd because I know if somebody in my family was missing and somebody was going to go search for him, I would definitely take the time, even if it's the holiday season, to talk to them. You guys let me know what you think.
This vague and disinterested response from his family didn't sit quite right with us, and spurred by this strange feeling, we dug deeper into the Stice family. We were shocked to discover a disturbing and sickening piece of information. As it turns out, Robert Brian Stice, Tyler's biological father, is a criminal convicted of one of the worst crimes imaginable: immoral and indecent acts with a minor. On top of that, the man, who now goes by his middle name, Brian, has allegedly begun driving Tyler's pride and joy, his black Ford Mustang, all around town just after his disappearance. All the ominous signs were adding up, but at the time, we had only scraped the tip of the iceberg. In case you're not familiar with the timeline of Tyler Stice's disappearance, we'll give a quick rundown on the events leading up to that fateful day. Because there isn't much widespread media coverage of this case, our knowledge on the specifics comes from the few articles that are out there, in addition to a very comprehensive explanation Tyler's sister, Jessica, gave on a podcast called UNFOUND. We reached out to the podcast creator to ask for permission to use portions of the audio from her interview, but we were unfortunately denied. Although we were disheartened to see this case being treated as a competition rather than a collaboration to find the truth about Tyler, we opted instead to include some of Jessica's vital details from that appearance without the accompaniment of her audio. Tyler was 20 years old when he went missing in 2016. Friends and family described the young man as an avid gamer who was pretty introverted and liked to keep to himself. He was said to have met most of his friends online rather than in real life, through internet forums or social websites. His older sister, Jessica, who has said that she was very close with Tyler growing up, remembered him as a sincere, well-behaved, and kind boy of many talents. These included photography, cross-country, school band, both digital and hand-drawn art, writing and poetry, and of course, video games. According to her, he was a joyful kid who always got the best grades in the family, and she fondly recalled him always having cute chipmunk cheeks as a child. When he disappeared, Tyler was in college attending a local community institution while living with his parents so that he could fulfill some prerequisites to one day attend Flagstaff and learn how to fly drones for police departments. He was constantly busy balancing extracurricular activities while working hard to pay for school, his prized black Ford Mustang, and the rent his mother charged him to live at the family house. Tyler transitioned through a few jobs, from a rigorous schedule at a local Wendy's to steady employment at a toilet paper company. And finally, 1 month before his disappearance, he had just started to work at a furniture store. On Monday, June 19th, 2016, Tyler completed his shift as usual, but then he did something really strange. He drove to a Walmart and purchased a .22 caliber rifle. After that, he proceeded to buy ammo from a different unknown store. He never mentioned the gun to his family, so they could never explain why he had gone out and bought a weapon. In fact, they wouldn't find out about the purchase at all until the investigation was already underway days later when police surveyed security camera footage from the Walmart store. The following morning, on Tuesday, Tyler decided not to go to work. This was totally unlike him, and he had never done anything like this before. But when his mother, Stephanie, asked him why he had ditched without notice, he simply explained that he needed some time for himself to think. And she accepted his words at face value. Nobody knows what Tyler did during his free time that day. But his car was back in the driveway at night, and Tyler's parents observed that he had retreated to his room after hanging with his dad outside for a while. Besides skipping work, nothing seemed particularly out of the ordinary. The next day, Stephanie reports hearing Tyler get up and leave for work around 5 or 6 a.m. Indeed, Tyler seemed to have packed a lunch and headed out for the day. However, Tyler did not show up for work a second time, and to this day, he has never been seen again. Tyler's workplace called his mother later that day, as she was his emergency contact, to find out why he had skipped work for 2 days in a row. Tyler had always been a very dependable and reliable employee, so they knew something was wrong when he failed to show up. At the news of his strange behavior, Stephanie began frantically calling family members who lived nearby in addition to those out of state, desperately trying to see if anybody knew where Tyler could possibly be. But her inquiries proved fruitless. She allegedly attempted to file a missing person report on her son, but the police department wouldn't allow it until 48 hours had passed to prove that he was indeed missing. A few anxious days passed with no news and no sign of Tyler until a huge lead was suddenly discovered. Tyler's black Ford Mustang was found in the parking lot of the Hualapai Mountain Trail. Investigators were stumped as to why Tyler would have visited the site. It was many miles out of the way from his workplace, and Tyler's family adamantly claimed that he wasn't an outdoorsy person by any means. Tyler had brought his laptop, phone, wallet, and keys with him that day, but none of them had ever been found. Instead, his vehicle's interior and exterior were eerily clean, free of any pine needles or dirt on the outside that would indicate he had gone for a hike. Inside the vehicle, investigators found a ripped-up photo of an anime cat girl, a bag presumably meant to hold a laptop, Tyler's beloved camera in the trunk, and chai tea in the passenger side door. Tyler was said to never go anywhere without his camera, so it was very suspicious that he would forget it in the trunk. Furthermore, his sister Jessica said photos must have been deleted from the camera's memory, since she had specifically seen him taking pictures more recently than the ones that the camera's storage actually held upon inspection. The mysteriously abandoned chai tea was also an incredibly strange clue. Tyler's family said they'd never seen him drink that beverage since he claimed he didn't like the flavor. But all the same, when the cup was tested, it was indeed Tyler's DNA that was found on the cup. Maybe he had changed his mind and decided to try chai. But then, why was it in the passenger side door? Was somebody else driving the vehicle with Tyler that day? Police dogs followed Tyler's scent from the car down a natural drainage path in the woods. The hike wasn't extreme, but it was difficult enough that investigators wondered if Tyler could have completed it while holding on to all of his belongings they presumed him to have on him: the laptop, phone, wallet, and keys. In desperation to find her brother, Jessica herself searched the area many times, and she just didn't see how Tyler could have carried all that stuff on foot. The dogs traced Tyler's path to a Girl Scout campsite about a mile away, and then up to the main road until it completely disappeared. Strangely, a coworker did report seeing Tyler's car leave the furniture store the morning he vanished around 6 a.m., but they couldn't tell if Tyler was inside. Why would Tyler drive all the way to work just to park and head elsewhere? Despite all the clues, nothing about the boy's disappearance makes any sense. The local police conducted a full forensic check of Tyler's car and bedroom, but no useful leads came out of it. They initially focused their investigation on the Stice family, but after both parents passed polygraph tests, they were cleared of suspicion. Officers scoured Tyler's online accounts on his desktop computer, noticing that he had been signed up for some dating websites, but they found absolutely no evidence that he had planned a meetup with anyone. In the following weeks, a private detective reached out to the Stice family, and they were beyond thrilled and relieved that another analytical mind would be offering his assistance to find their son. However, in an alleged sketchy misuse of power, the local police department reportedly informed the Stice family that if they chose to work with the private detective, they could say goodbye to any assistance from the police. Rather than try to have all the help they could in order to find Tyler, the police claimed that they didn't like the way he works, and that his methods were dirty. Not wanting to be cut off from law enforcement, the Stice family was regrettably forced to stop communication with the detective. Despite their monopolization of the investigation task force, the police were quick to dismiss Tyler's case soon after, subscribing to a dubious theory that he had met up and ran away with a wealthy older gay man. It became clear to the Stice family that law enforcement was not taking the disappearance seriously at all, and nobody can quite pin down how they came to this wildly unfounded conclusion. In Jessica's eyes, it was all just a convenient excuse to write Tyler's disappearance off as a runaway. Not long after we published the video searching for Tyler, Jessica reached out to us through a social media messenger. Technically, she's his half-sister. They shared a mother, but Brian is Jessica's stepfather. Her message to us indicated that she was biding her time, combing through the case information and getting her facts in line. The reason behind this cautious personal investigation would soon be revealed. Jessica was brave enough to share a very personal truth with us. The child who had been the victim of Brian's disgusting crimes was none other than herself. Jessica's shocking confession made our blood run cold. If Brian could do such appalling acts to his own young stepchild, there's no telling what he may have been capable of doing to Tyler. According to Jessica, Brian had gone to prison for 16 years for his crime against her. But even before that, he had served a 2-year jail sentence for doing something heinous to one of Jessica's young friends who was at the Stice house for a sleepover. Jessica wasn't specific about what Brian did to that front, but we can only assume it was unspeakably terrible, along with the same vein of what Jessica herself experienced at the hands of her horrible stepfather. Jessica had a very important reason behind sharing this personal detail with us. She was suspicious of her father's involvement in her brother's tragic disappearance. More than that, she had come to the conclusion that her mother, who had for some reason stayed with Brian after his horrible crime and jail sentence, would be inclined to cover for her husband if any foul play was indeed involved in Tyler's disappearance. Jessica was so sure of her speculations that she expressed a wish to search in the hills and mine shafts behind the Stice family home for any signs of Tyler's body. She had also taken a few solo trips up to Hualapai Mountains to search for her brother, excursions which she documented on her GoPro, but she kept these trips secret from her mother, Stephanie. It wasn't only Brian and Stephanie's past behavior that made Jessica feel wary and suspicious. For starters, she strongly felt utterly alone in her resolve to bring Tyler home, as though she was the only family member who really cared. And she claimed that the parents appeared to be putting on a false show of grieving. She found it strange and appalling how fast they sold his first car, a Volvo, just months after he went missing. Now, it's important to understand that Jessica has survived past experiences dealing firsthand with the loss of a child. In June 2013, she had hired landscapers to work on her home, and when the laborers made the tragic mistake of forgetting to shut the pool gate, Jessica's baby wandered outside, fell in the water, and drowned. Jessica was beyond devastated, but after a period of grieving, she was able to turn her hurt into a way of helping others. She created a support group for other parents going through similar tragedies and became an influential figure in the fight for public awareness of anti-drowning precautions. All this is to say that Jessica was no stranger to the concept of losing a child, and the reactions that Brian and Stephanie displayed were nothing short of suspicious to her. The way they moved on so quickly after his death, including repainting his room to turn it into an office, suggested to Jessica that they knew he wasn't coming back and didn't care. We naturally wondered why law enforcement hadn't grilled Brian more intensely when the investigation was afoot. When someone goes missing, family members are often the first people the police question, and with Brian's known criminal history of indecent acts against the children in his own family, it seemed like he should have immediately been pinned as the primary suspect. But as is the case with so many small towns, the local police station in Kingman seemed to be guilty of some level of corruption. You see, Jessica's mother, Stephanie, worked as a nurse, and Jessica told us that Stephanie's good friend, who worked with her as a head nurse of the PCU unit, is the wife of the chief of police. This alleged personal connection would make it much easier for Stephanie to cover up any foul play Brian might be guilty of if she so wished. It would also explain why Brian, a registered sex offender, hasn't faced more scrutiny. Jessica also told us that she had a creeping feeling that her mother was attempting to control her, maybe to stop her from finding out too much. In this message, she claims that her friends have been trying to warn her to watch out for Stephanie's attempted manipulation. She had done a phone interview with a podcast host shortly after Tyler's disappearance, and although her demeanor had seemed amiable towards her mother, Jessica shared that she had been forced to watch her words because during the whole interview, Stephanie was sitting beside her, listening in on everything that came out of Jessica's mouth. Stephanie apparently harassed Jessica after the podcast interview for saying too much. But the details Jessica had shared were nothing outrageous, and nothing more than what was publicly known. When asked about the family dynamics in the Stice household at the time, Jessica had explained that only Tyler and his two parents were living in the house, since the older siblings had moved out. She briefly mentioned that her mom could be controlling, but followed up by clarifying that Tyler and Stephanie got along well. She even said that Brian was trying to rebuild his fractured relationship with his son. Somehow, things got even crazier from there. Jessica claimed that her mom had attempted to admit her to a psych ward, and when that didn't work, she coerced her into taking seizure medication, which had a multitude of atrocious side effects that proved detrimental to Jessica's mental health. Jessica felt that she was quite literally losing her mind, slowly going insane from what she presumed was the medication. She reported memory loss, speech problems, motor problems, and inability to function normally. Jessica had a chilling theory that Stephanie had deliberately put her on unneeded meds in order to silence her and prevent whatever she and Brian might have been hiding from getting exposed. She even got to the point where she suspected her own mother might be trying to get rid of her permanently. This theory is not unrealistic. and it made sense to Jessica that her mother, being a nurse by trade, would know precisely how to mess with her mind in a clinical way. Apparently, Stephanie was already unhappy with the podcast appearance Jessica made, even though she only went through the details of the investigation and described Tyler's personality. From the looks of it, if what Jessica said was true, Stephanie was certainly acting awfully paranoid and made it seem that she may well have been hiding something. However, we emphasize there is no way to prove Jessica's assertions, and therefore, Stephanie and Brian's involvement in the case is simply a speculative theory. However, Jessica also had a solid hypothesis as to how Brian may have been involved in Tyler's disappearance. She found Tyler's purchase of the rifle extremely out of character and made the connection that because Brian was a convicted felon who wouldn't legally be able to purchase a firearm, perhaps he could have forced Tyler to buy it for him. She said Tyler had a distinct dislike for guns. No matter how much the family had tried to convince him to join on hunting trips throughout the years, he always adamantly refused. So, what would possess him to buy a rifle and ammo out of the blue, and so close to the time of his last sighting? She told us over Messenger that she could see Brian harming Tyler. As she put it, after being in prison for 16 years, he was used to only one thing, presumably referring to his violent and rash tendencies. Interestingly, Jessica allegedly told Tyler the truth about what his father Brian had done to her all those years ago. The indecent acts that landed him in prison just a few months before the boy went missing. She thinks that this dark truth could have been the catalyst for a confrontation between her criminal stepfather and his son, who had just been awakened to the monster Brian really was. Jessica's wish in reaching out to our team was so that we would eventually make a second video updating the search for Tyler. She wanted to spread awareness about his case and fight for Tyler's justice, and we were beyond excited to work together with Jessica as a team to bring this new information to the public eye. But in late 2018, we were notified that Jessica had tragically ended her own life.
Blow out the candles! Yay! Blow! Woo-hoo!
Get on the cake, good girl.
Our viewers who had watched the original video let us know about her passing in the comments, and we quickly proceeded to call the detective assigned to Tyler's case to confirm these reports. He verified that Jessica's death had been a suicide, but in our interaction with him, his attitude towards the whole situation seemed entirely dismissive. He acknowledged that the trauma Jessica dealt with from a young age at the hands of Brian probably influenced her decision. But he was extremely indifferent towards the tragedy, saying that Jessica simply had problems. Even when we attempted to explain Jessica's unnerving fear of her own mother, the detective simply brushed off the implication that Stephanie would have purposely tried to mess up her daughter's mind through the medication rather than explore the possibility. Jessica was an incredibly brave woman who fought so many battles in life, from Brian's inappropriate attacks on her at a young age, to the loss of her baby in the drowning accident, and finally to the disappearance of her dear little brother. Screenshots of our past Facebook conversations are the only mementos we have to remember our time speaking with Jessica and the dedication and admirable strength she had in her relentless pursuit to finding her brother. Her heartbreak and anguish over the unsolved mystery were clear in her messages. She talked about losing sleep over this case. All she really wanted was to bring Tyler home, even if he was no longer alive. She wanted him to have a peaceful resting place. It's hard to imagine that Jessica never got to learn the truth of what had happened to her brother, but we hope that her dream can live on and come to fruition one day. This was Jessica's favorite photo of her and Tyler together. One of the main topics we discussed with Jessica was the strange activity from Tyler's online accounts. She explained that she had sent him numerous messages on Facebook in the weeks following his disappearance on the off chance that he might respond. 1 month after he had vanished, though, Tyler's Messenger account showed that he had read her messages. Jessica freaked out at this development and she immediately contacted detectives. She knew that they had access to his social media profiles and asked if it was them who had logged in and seen her messages, but they denied any involvement. She never found out if it was Tyler or somebody else who logged into his account and viewed her chat messages that day, but since then, she says the status of the messages has reverted back to just delivered and not read. Hearing this, we decided to do some digging of our own. With everyone's emphasis that most of Tyler's closest friends were fostered online, we knew there must have been some uncovered leads to find if we could only pin down some of his lesser-known internet identities. What we were able to find fundamentally changed how we viewed this case and added yet another layer of mystery to the affair. First of all, Tyler's DeviantArt account had been logged into since his disappearance. We also found his account on IMVU, an online gaming and forum site, and were soon led to a very suspicious account on the site that went by the name Kira Zitora. This account was last logged into on the exact day of Tyler's disappearance and has never been accessed since. When we inspected the photo albums of this Kira Zitora account, we found pictures of a girl. At first, we were very confused by this discovery. The photos, plus the fact that the account's gender was set to female, obviously made it hard to determine Tyler's involvement. Was this account really owned by this unknown girl? Or had Tyler been catfishing online friends by pretending to be someone he wasn't? Soon enough, though, with more investigation, we were able to match up those photos with a girl on Facebook, someone who Tyler actually knew in real life. They had taken a photo together at their high school graduation, and Tyler sometimes interacted with her status updates. To give a little context to this discovery, it's important to note something that Tyler's co-workers revealed when asked about their interactions with the young man. They said that he had been showing them a photo of a girl he claimed was his girlfriend, and when we showed the IMVU account photos to one of these co-workers, they confirmed that it was the same girl Tyler had told them he was in a relationship with. This was a shocking discovery. Up until this point, nobody in the investigation, including the police, had known about this possible mystery girlfriend. This just goes to show the extent of which law enforcement neglected their due diligence of digging deep into this case. The Kira Zitora IMVU account belonged to a group called the Kigawa Tribe, with a few other users. It appears to have been an ongoing role-playing narrative where the members pretended to be specific characters within their fantasy universe, but we could not access what was actually written in the forum. However, we did reach out to other members of that group to get a better idea of who this elusive Kira Zitora person was. As we compared the details they told us with the real girl's Facebook posts, the similarities were undeniable. For instance, the IMVU friends claimed that Kira was always in and out of the hospital. Meanwhile, the real girl whose photos the account was using made frequent Facebook posts about her hospital trips, resulting from health issues with her condition of lupus. Kira also claimed to have a roommate named Louise, which also happened to be Stephanie's middle name. However, a different person named Louise could also be seen commenting frequently on the real girl's Facebook posts. These findings were already weird enough, but what one of the IMVU friends told us next stopped us in our tracks. One of the individuals we spoke with told us that Kira had commented to them she was drinking tea right before suddenly going offline and vanishing forever. The puzzle pieces were all coming together. Tyler's DNA had been found on the chai tea from his vehicle, and this account was last logged into on the day he went missing. Obviously, we couldn't believe that this was just a coincidence. The puzzle pieces just fit too well together. We informed the IMVU user about the context of the case, and once he found out that he may have been catfished by a young man the whole time, he went silent and removed a section of his profile that featured a heart next to Kira's name. Of course, our next step was to reach out to the girl in the photos on her Facebook account. We were anxious to present this strange evidence to her and get a definitive answer, once and for all. If she had been somehow involved in this IMVU account, or if Tyler really had been assuming her identity to catfish people. We eagerly messaged the girl, but received no reply at first. Okay, fair, we thought. She must not be seeing it because it got stuck in her message requests folder. So we commented on a public post she had made, asking her politely to check her inbox and speak with us if she was willing. We were excited when she replied, saying she didn't see our message. But then things quickly soured. We promptly commented back explaining how she could view our message. But it seemed that she immediately blocked us because we could no longer view the public post or send further messages to the girl, whose Facebook page now said she was an unavailable user. We're not even sure what spooked her since she replied to our first comment, but it didn't appear that she ever read our direct message after all. Needless to say, it is very disappointing that we were unable to ask her a simple question that would have given this investigation an enormous amount of clarity. Currently, she does still like a Facebook page called Find Tyler that Jessica used to run for the investigation. We have to wonder why she was so unwilling to speak with us. All we could do was leave an additional comment as an official page under one of her public posts, sharing more context about the case and what our inquiry was about in the hopes that she would be more willing to respond if she knew what we were after. But even though she has been active on Facebook since that comment, we have yet to ever hear back from her. After being almost certain that this IMVU account really belonged to Tyler, this Facebook girl's strange behavior made us question if she was somehow involved. We later searched for a variation of the username Kira Zitora, replacing Z and E with Z and A, and what we found confirmed our suspicions. A Twitter account under the variation of the username listed their name as Kira Stice. There was also a Facebook account under the title Kira Stice, which listed the user's job as a manager at Wendy's, a store that Tyler had previously worked at. And, unsurprisingly, the specific Wendy's location was the same that Tyler had been employed at. With so many solid leads, we seriously needed someone who was willing to speak with us about all these new developments, in order to hopefully shed some light on the things we uncovered. We decided to reach out to Tyler's other sister, Cassandra. Jessica had often mentioned that the two of them were very close because they loved to play video games together. In her podcast interview, Jessica even explained that Cassandra and Tyler would sometimes stay up until 4 a.m., the time flying by as they had a blast playing their games together. That being said, Jessica lamented that Cassandra denied hearing anything personal or emotional from Tyler that could have predicted this disappearance. She said, quote, "They played games together on PlayStation, but she said that he never opened up more on an emotional side. They just gamed together more. So she always said, no, he would never say anything to me about anything was different or out of the ordinary. I mean, we've hounded her a million times. Did Tyler ever say anything to you?" And she, because we know that they gamed and gamed together past 4 a.m. sometimes, so... All the same, we thought it would be worthwhile to ask Cassandra directly about her relationship with Tyler, her knowledge of his IMVU gaming account, and possibly even more theories concerning her parents' involvement. She graciously responded to us on Facebook and agreed to answer our questions, which is how we learned 2 more important details. First of all, she agreed in Jessica's distrust of Brian and shared in the belief that if he did do something, Stephanie might cover for him. Second, she disclosed some details that directly contradicted what Jessica had said in the podcast about Tyler never sharing intimate emotional struggles with Cassandra. Cassandra told us that they had talked the weekend before his disappearance about how they wanted to go ghost and hide from everyone. She says they talked about going far away where they didn't have any family or friends. In fact, she still believes he is out there somewhere and claims that these deep conversations stemmed from a mutual feeling that life wasn't what they wanted it to be because of their own separate issues. They knew nobody understood the real them, and he wanted to be free without having to worry about anyone judging him. This striking insight into Tyler's emotional state during his final days with his family is so telling, but it makes us wonder, did Jessica neglect to mention this detail on purpose? Or did Cassandra never share it with the family in the first place? Either way, Jessica did believe that right before he went missing, when she told Tyler about what Brian had done to her, the information had shaken his spirits and his relationship with his father. This could be part of the reason for Tyler's desire to get away and start fresh. We knew it was a long shot, but decided it couldn't hurt to attempt reaching out to Stephanie on Facebook as well. We weren't too surprised to receive no response. In the end, we've dug up so much new information to help us understand this case on a deeper level, but the more we discover, the more confusing the whole case gets. Even with each new detail uncovered, Tyler's disappearance never becomes clearer. The police seem to have honed in on Tyler's online presence, combined with the fact that his scent trail ended on the main road. These facts have led them to the conclusion that he had planned to meet up and run away with somebody. However, Tyler was having casual conversations with friends online and family in the days leading up to his disappearance, and he even logged into his IMVU account that very day and talked to his friend about drinking tea. To us, that just doesn't seem like it would be his top priority if he were planning to go through with an elaborate and orchestrated escape later that day. It's entirely possible that his internet history, while admittedly suspicious, was just an unrelated red herring that threw the investigation down a false trail, when the real culprit may be right under their noses. We understand that it's good to give people the benefit of the doubt and that everyone is innocent until proven guilty, but all the same, it is just inconceivable that a mother could stay with her husband after finding out the deplorable acts he had committed against her own young daughter. In addition to Brian and Stephanie's questionable morals, the local police department's handling of Tyler's investigation is perplexing and disappointing. Many missing person cases have been solved after decades of going cold, and with how relatively recent Tyler's disappearance was, there's no reason to give up hope of potentially finding and bringing him home. If you know any information that could help solve Tyler Stice's case, the Facebook page Jessica started called Find Tyler is still active and accepting new information. When Jessica was still with us, she had also mentioned an anonymous phone tip line at the number 928-753-1234 for anyone who may have answers to call.